There are many seniors that are relocating abroad and are so confused as what to do with their Medicare. So this video is going to give you a guide as to what you should be thinking about if you've relocated abroad or you're in the process of thinking about relocating abroad. This video is for you. Before we get into the details, I would like to introduce that I do have a Move Abroad course that breaks down the steps as to what you should be thinking about if you're considering the Move Abroad journey. We will go through which countries you should be actually thinking about and not wasting your time on countries that don't even have a visa track or residency track. What are the requirements? How do you meet the requirements? If you're still working and you want time to explore those countries, but you want some time to explore those countries, how do you receive time off from work? What to do with your home or your assets located in the US? What the things that you should be thinking about is what we dive into in the Move Abroad course. The link will be in the description box. Now, let's get back to Medicare. Now, if you're a senior receiving Medicare, I just want you to preface all of this information with the understanding that typically Medicare does not cover you when you are abroad. There are some small exceptions, but typically your Medicare does not matter while you're abroad. Your private insurance in the US does not matter while you're abroad. There's some exceptions, but just from the beginning, I want that to be clear to you that God forbid you become injured in another country, you think that your Medicare card has weight. It really doesn't. So if you're of retirement age, you should pretty much know the basics of Medicare, which is based on age, not income per se. And so there's different components of Medicare. For the purposes of this video, we're going to discuss those different components. But as a baseline, Medicare is made of Part A, B, C, D, and some other alphabets as we get onto this video. But original Medicare is basically Part A and Part B. Original Medicare is Part A and Part B. Now, for purposes of moving abroad, Part A is ideal to keep because it's free. It does not come out of your Social Security check, and there's really nothing you need to do regarding it. It's free. Part B, on the other hand, you do pay premiums, monthly premiums, to keep Part B activated. Now, if you're considering moving abroad and you plan on visiting the US frequently, or you plan on moving abroad temporarily and eventually coming back to the US, it's best to keep Part B, because otherwise, when you come back to the US and you want to sign up from Part B again, you will be charged a 10% penalty for the periods in which you did not have Medicare, but you should have had Medicare. As well as you do have to wait for the enrollment period, which is between the enrollment period is between January and March. And then your Medicare Part B activation won't actually happen until July of that year. So as you can see, if you plan on relocating back to the US once your time abroad has ended, it could be rather complicated, expensive to reactivate your Medicare Part B. That's why it's ideal to keep it even though you pay the monthly premiums. So as we covered Part A and Part B, we're going to discuss Part C, which is Medicare Advantage plans. So Medicare Advantage plans are private alternatives to original Medicare, which is Part A and B. Some include emergency and urgent care abroad, but this is very nuanced and specific. In most cases, it won't cover you if you're injured abroad or need medical care, so it would be prudent to not rely on it. You will have to specifically check your plan to see what the requirements are if you plan to move abroad or be abroad and rely on your Advantage plan for healthcare needs. Of course, you will at first have to pay out-of-pocket expenses and then receive reimbursement from the private insurance under the Advantage plan. So you will have to have cash on hand at first and then receive reimbursement from the Advantage plan. Part D. Part D covers prescription drugs, so they made it easy for us by giving us the D. You cannot keep D if you're living abroad, nor can you activate it or use it as a form of insurance while you are abroad, because it covers only in the United States. Best to disenroll if you're going to be living abroad, because it will be useless. And there's no penalty for activating it when you return to the US. Now, there's Medigap, which is a Medicare supplement. So Medigap is Medicare C, D, F, G, M, and N. Now, this covers medical emergencies abroad with 80% of costs covered and a $250 deductible per year, with a lifetime limit of $50,000. This coverage of Medigap only covers you within 60 days of your trip. So it's very nuanced and limited. So those are the overall basics if you have Medicare A, B, C, and D that you want to think about if you're moving abroad, whether it be useful to have. Now we're going to recap everything because that was a lot. Should you keep Part A? Yes, you should keep Part A because it's free. There's no penalty to keep it. So you might as well keep it if you're living abroad since it costs you nothing. What about Part B? As I discussed, there's a 10% penalty to reactivate it, and you do have to wait for the general enrollment period as well as to activate it additional few months. So although you'll be receiving premium deductions every month from your income, it's best to keep it, especially if you plan on coming and visiting the US or plan on relocating back to the US in the future. To cancel it, if you're like, I'm not coming back to the US, I will never use the US insurance ever again, I will never use Part B or A, then all you would have to do is contact Social Security office and let them know that you are living abroad permanently and you will no longer need Part B. Medigap plans like C, D, F, G, M, and N cover only medical emergencies, 80% of the cost, with the $250 deductible with the $50,000 lifetime limit. But again, this coverage is only during the first 60 days of your stay in the foreign country. This is only for medical necessary situations. So it's not prudent to rely on it as a means of health insurance in the foreign countries. Again, Part D is useless abroad, so there's no problem in canceling it because it has no purpose while you're abroad. The Advantage plan has its limits, and so ultimately it's prudent to rely on international health insurance or buy the insurance, the socialized medicine of the country in which you will be staying, and many times it's more comprehensive and that you won't have to duct tape an idea of what the Medicare plan will provide for you in the foreign country. Most of the socialized medicines that are available in most countries will be a lot more comprehensive and straightforward than figuring out Medicare abroad. Even in the US, as I was reading through it, I was like, this is so complicated for people to have to deal with if they're struggling with health issues. So ultimately, I just want you to understand that Medicare does not carry across borders and that it is useless in foreign countries, even if you have an Advantage plan or if you have Medigap. Those are very nuanced situation, and the likelihood your claim will get denied is high, as well as having to pay the out-of-pocket expenses for the treatment and then receiving reimbursement is an added stress. So which is why you can safely rely on the local health insurance without any problems. Please let me know if you have any specific questions. I'm more than willing to do a follow-up video. And again, if you're thinking about moving abroad and you have questions, please feel free to sign up for the Move Abroad program so we can iron out any anxiety you have regarding the process. I will see you next time, and I bid you farewell. Bye-bye.